Chapter 25. Hidden Stone Secrets. Part 3. The Sessoseki slams its stone fists on the ground, shaking the entire plane therein. Cracks spread on the ground, opening various pits, some big, some small, but the group manages to get back to a relatively safe distance. This chakra. Naruto stands in front of the rest, ready to move out. It's definitely a great beast, alright. His clothes become wreathed in orange flames. Naruto. Hinata reaches out to him and holds his hand. If what Lady Mito said is true, then that thing is. Naruto pensively looks at the beast. A person. Yeah. He squeezes Hinata's hand and turns to her, kissing her on the forehead. But whoever it used to be has become a mindless, rampaging monster. We can't leave it as is. He flickers towards it and unleashes Kurama's form, which while impressive in its own right, is much smaller than the stone creature. Not that that's going to slow down Naruto even slightly. The kids all stare in awe. Katori has already seen this before, but it's still impressive. Yakimaru and Shoto's eyes are bulging out and their jaws are slacked from the sight. Let's go, Kurama. Yeah. The fox doesn't sound as enthused as Naruto does. That doesn't go unnoticed. Even though he's not the hothead of their combo, he's shown a great desire to beat down the great beasts to where they're from. Is it because of what they recently found out? Boy, you're not chickening out cause they used to be human, are you? Since when do you care? No one's chickening out. He roars. Focus on the enemy and just shut up. Someone's getting testy. He leaps high in the air to try and pounce on the creature, maybe even knock it down, but it holds its arm against its chest and swats Naruto to the ground. It goes for a punch, and that's when the temple's name becomes clear. Even though its parts have shifted around to create its new humanoid form, the tunnel system remains relatively intact, and the massive swing causes air to go through, causing the howling wind to resemble a melody. A slow, almost calming melody that does not fit this being or its current intent. On hearing the melody, Kurama freezes in shock. No, it can't be. Flashback. A vision flashes before Kurama's eyes. He's stood behind a woman with long black hair in front of a creek, humming that same melody. It's slow and beautiful, calming yet somehow somber. She stops and giggles. You're back. She begins turning around, her silky hair hiding most of her face. End of flashback. Naruto tries to get away from the punch, but he doesn't have full control over his body. Something's wrong with Kurama. Naruto takes the punch head on, and the other arm comes right for him. He just barely managed to get his arms up to block the hit, but it still feels like a mountain dropped on him. Mostly because a mountain did drop on him. He skids back and falls on his back. And after telling me to focus, he turns around in his mindscape to confront his roommate. What was that about? It's nothing. Kurama sinks his claws into the ground, scraping the floor. It's obviously something. Naruto protests with increasing annoyance. Kurama growls and shouts. If I told you it's nothing, then it's nothing. Both of them are jostled from their thoughts by the Sessoseki ramming into them. It continues its vicious assault, with Naruto not fully able to defend. His movements are slower, his nine tails form weaker and less stable from whatever is going on in Kurama's mind. The Sessoseki opens its maw and releases a cloud of gas spread over a vast area. When they come in contact with just a small portion of Kurama's form, Naruto feels the immense sting. This thing dissolves, and it works quickly. He shifts back and brings his tails together. In a tested move, he swings them all at once to send the poisonous cloud away from him. There's not much vegetation in the area, but what little of it there is immediately wilts and dies. Naruto looks back to where Hinata and the kids are. Can't let any of that stuff near them. He runs around the Sessoseki and has its full attention, being the only current threat. What follows is a punching fest, each of them delivering heavy blow after heavy blow, although that proves a bit more of a challenge for Naruto, who often has to resort to hit-and-run tactics. On the sidelines, Hinata is very clearly agitated. She grips her fist and turns to face the others. Akatsuchi, please take care of the children. What? Where are you going? To Naruto. She says, having already begun running to him. He needs help. The kids call out to her, but ultimately they know this is not a battle they can take part in, and they can hardly have a say. This is the level that their mentors fight at. Earth-style, rock clones. Two more Akatsuchis rise up from the ground and take a battle-ready position, prepared to guard the kids. Don't stray for me, got it? They nod in response as they watch Naruto desperately fight and Hinata running toward him. She has to stop at intervals to brace herself, as every step this massive behemoth takes causes the ground to shake, but she does manage to read Naruto safely and climb up Kurama's leg to reach her boyfriend at the front. Being in both Kurama and Sage modes, he sensed her drawing closer long ago, so her arrival is no surprise. "Hinata, what are you doing here?" "Helping you. I said I'll stand by your side, and I meant it." She holds his hand, and they stand shoulder to shoulder. Being inside Kurama's chakra cloak increases her power exponentially and makes it easier for her to do what she's about to do. She closes her eyes and focuses her chakra. The process is much quicker and more fluid than it was before. When she opens her eyes, they're not the pale hue they usually are, but light blue with a white flower pattern. Tense again. Purple chakra flows from her, through Naruto, and into Kurama's form. His arms and legs, his head and back all gain a purple flame-like chakra emanating from them. Naruto can feel the surge of chakra, and the form is now more stable than before. Naruto grins. "All right. Let's beat this thing together." Reinvigorated, they charge at it. It once again swings its fists, causing the melody to sound off again. Hinata molds the flame on Kurama's arm into a spear and sends it flying to the fist. The resulting clash causes a massive wave of chakra to burst forth and push back the fist. The Tensogen-empowered Kurama uses the momentary break in its assault to pounce right on his chest. He clings onto its chest with 3 legs, using the 4th one to gather chakra in his palm. Both Naruto and Hinata send their chakra through to form a familiar technique they've worked on. Sage Art Gentle Step, Massive Spiraling Lion Fist. The lion-cloaked Rasengan slams into its chest, chunks of rock breaking off and flying in every direction, dealing heavy damage to its torso. The open wound, however, releases a big burst of poisonous gas, so they're forced to jump back again. "Naruto, let's try it." She squeezes his hand and brings her hand back a bit, bending her elbow. Naruto smiles. "Let's." Naruto follows her lead. Kurama's form bends both arms at the elbow, mimicking Hinata's action. They gather chakra at their hands and thrust forward with impressive force. Sage Art Gentle Fist, Vacuum Wall Palm. The resulting whirlwind covers an area much larger than even the Sessoseki. The gas is blown away, and even the great beast is sent back a short distance. Once the wind dies down, so does the gas. Hinata remains ever watchful. The gas stopped. That means it's not a continuous source, but an ability that recharges. Yeah. If we can just keep at it long enough, we might even damage wherever it's releasing the gas from. They charge at it and continue their assault. The great beast, however, is not without its own abilities. By drawing earth and stone from the ground, it's able to replenish what was broken off. Naruto and Hinata double their efforts to rip into it, but the beast is strong. Way stronger than the Kappa or Nu that Naruto faced before. This one is unsealed, not burdened by the Rashomon gates, and it shows. Every punch resonates and sends shockwaves through the area, and every time it swings its arm, the wind passes through the tunnels, making it sound that melody again. Naruto and Hinata seem to do fine until one fateful punch goes their way. The Sessoseki twists its arm to deliver a more powerful hit, changing the melody that passes through its tunnels. Flashback. Another flash from Kurama's memory. He remembers that same woman humming that melody as several small birds fly around. They land on her shoulder, on her lap, on her hands. 2 larger ones, clearly the parents, hover around them. She laughs with glee as the young ones take flight, some with more effort than the others, apparently they've only just learned how to. She turns around, her silky black hair swaying. "See? I told you I'd become this forest's mother." End of flashback. Kurama's chakra form breaks. Naruto and Hinata are stranded mid-air with a massive fist heading their way. Suddenly disconnecting from Kurama has reverted Hinata's Tensogen back into a Byakugan, but Naruto is still in Sage mode. They look to each other in a panic, racking their brains as to what comes next. With precious little time to spare, Naruto extends a hand to Hinata and swipes the air. His hand, infused with natural energy, sends Hinata flying away just as it hits Naruto and sends him flying into the ground. "Naruto." She lets out a scream, but there's not much she can do flying away. The kids, seeing this, instinctively run to her, but Akatsuchi's rock clones grab them. "Mom. No. Let go." Akatsuchi himself slams his hands on the ground. Earth-style, towering mud pillar. The ground in front of him softens and bursts out to meet Hinata before she hits the ground. The impact still hurts, but it would have been way worse. The pillar of mud becomes shorter and shorter until she comes at a much safer height, at which point she hops down to safety, holding her sides and hissing in pain. What happened up there? I'm not certain. I could feel Kurama's chakra wavering as the fight progressed, but I don't know what happened. Dad? Where's Dad? Katori looks in a panic to where they saw Naruto's body fell. Hinata looks around with her Byakugan. He's fine. He's hurt, but he's fine. She then looks up at the monster that's regained its full form. But what are we supposed to do about that? On the other side of the field, Naruto also hisses in pain, the area around covered by the dust he'd kicked up on impact. Sorry for calling you. An older male voice croaks. Honestly, what have you gotten yourself into now? An older female voice chimes in. What's that Nine-Tails doing? Your body's broken all over. I'm not sure. He's not responding to my calls. Something up but he won't open. Naruto emerges from the dust and smoke in sage mode, with Fukasaku and Shima on each shoulder. I'll be counting on you, Pa. My body can't really take another hit like that. You got it, Naruto, my boy. Fukasaku brings his hands together and begins weaving chakra. I'll handle his injuries, you help him fight, Ma. Let's go, Naruto. Shima calls out, and he runs towards it once again. The Sessoseki sees him approach and swings down. Naruto dodges to the side and jump, and when the arm comes low enough, both he and Shima lash out their tongues and latch on it and reel themselves closer. Once on its arm, Shima puffs out her cheeks and releases smoke. Sage art wind style, dust cloud. Ducking into the cover, just as it swings with its other hand at him, as if swatting a fly. A total of 5 Narutos jump out in different directions, moving even higher up on its body. 2 of the shadow clones jump behind it, while the other 3 focus on getting more height. On reaching their positions, they gather swirling chakra in their palms with the help of Shima. Sage art wind style, massive Rasen Shuriken. The clones aim their Rasen Shuriken at its legs to knock it off balance, while the original and the other 2 clones aim high to push it backward. It works, somewhat, but that poisonous gas covers the area once again. Naruto gets back and is soon encountered by an injured Hinata. Naruto. I found where the gas is coming from. It took a while because of the seal that was in place before, but it's severely weakened now. She points to a specific area in the beast's abdomen, or what would be its abdomen if it wasn't made of rock. Right, but it's a bit harder now that Kurama's gone completely silent for some reason. We need more muscle. That's where we come in. A very familiar voice resonates through Naruto's mind. He finds himself in the very core of his mindscape, the place shared by all tailed beasts. He stands in a circle, surrounded by a total of 9 torii gates, each marked by a number. From the gate marked with a 4, a pool of lava inches its way closer to the center, while from the gate marked with a 5, hot steam comes rushing forth. Naruto grins. Although it looks like we just got it. Before Hinata could ask, she hears a thundering screech from a distance. She sees a large 4-tailed ape pounding its chest and screaming at the top of his lungs. Son Goku leaps and comes rushing right for the Sessoseki, spewing lava as he does. From the other side, Kikuo comes galloping through the field, boosted by his control over steam that allows him to propel himself forward. The kids can only stare in awe as they see 2 more giant creatures join, and apparently to fight the big rock one. Kikuo bashes head first and cracks the stony exterior, while Son Goku covers his entire body in lava and goes close contact, melting bits and pieces he touches. The Sessoseki roars and swings its arm, trying to get everyone that's now in its face. The tunnels continue to sound the different melodies as it does. It grabs onto Son Goku with its massive hand, despite being melted, and throws him toward Kikuo, who uses his steam to propel himself to the side to dodge his brother. Kikuo. Naruto calls out. Try to crack its stomach. We gotta get the source of its poison. Right. The steed-like tailed beast neighs and runs in head first, but his charge is halted. Sessoseki grabs him by the horns and slams him into the ground, roaring. All the time, with every movement, the melodies resonate because of the wind passing through it. Hold on. For a bit, Naruto carefully watches the battle rage between the Sessoseki and Son, Kikuo, and his shadow clones joining in along with Shima and Fukasaku's clones. Did you figure something out, Naruto? Hinata remains by his side, ready to assist him. Maybe. Son Goku. How fast can your lava harden? Pretty fast. What are you thinking? The large monkey responds both out loud and in his mind. You see those caves all over its body? Can you fill them up and block them? Can do. He then turns to his girlfriend by side. Hinata, can you tell me which tunnels lead to dead ends? I can take care of those. Right. She focuses her Byakugan and directs him to exact such spots. Son Goku and Naruto's shadow clones get into position. Lava style, scorching stream rock. Sun spews out multiple balls of lava, impacting the tunnel systems dotted all over the Sesoseki's body. It tries to block some of them, but many make an impact nonetheless. They melt down and fill up the caves, solidifying very quickly. Sun had thrown lava at it before, but not specifically targeting the tunnels. It's already showing effect, slowing its movements a little bit. Meanwhile, Naruto's clones go to where Hinata told him, where the spots he's looking for are. He, Shima, and Fukasaku weave chakra. Fan the flames for me. Fukasaku lets out a smile. Let's see how much you've learned, boy. Sage art, bath of boiling oil. Naruto spits out a stream of oil, Fukasaku fire that ignites it, and Shima a gust of wind that makes the flames much hotter. The five of them each release a small sea of burning oil that fills up its body and burns it from the inside. Naruto's hunch was right. Now that the tunnels are blocked and the wind can't pass through, its movements are slower than before. Its punches aren't as impactful. They'd still hurt if you get hit by them, but not as much as before. Kikuo immediately uses the opportunity to kick with all his might, steam shooting from his knees to add an extra oomph. The creature's stomach cracks with each and every kick until nearly the entire torso is gone, revealing the source of the gas, which already begins spreading. Lend of some of your power, you two. We already are. Fukasaku protests. Not you two. The other two. You got it. Sun is curious as ever as to what Naruto plans to do. Sure. Kikuo is a being of few words as usual. The shadow clones return to Naruto and help him weave chakra, imbuing it with a foreign chakra. Sage art lava style, massive Rasen shuriken. Sage art boil style, massive Rasen shuriken. Naruto shoots both of them through the air and targets the spot that Kikuo exposed. The S-rank jutsu breaks even more of the creature, but the result might be more than even he predicted. It does break, but what poisonous gas was still inside is blown out. And heading right towards Akatsuki and the kids. Son Goku and Kikuo move aside, so they're not melted away, but both Naruto and Hinata dart toward the kids, but the gas is moving faster than even they are. Akatsuki created an earthen dome around them, but it begins melting away. Damn it. Katori, Yakimeru, Shoto. Seeing this, another memory flashes in Kurama's mind. Flashback. The same woman is sitting beside a creek, tending to a couple injured bear cubs. She seems to be sobbing, but is trying to hide by having her back turned. She cleans the cubs' wounds, some bloody arrows thrown to the side. I won't let anything happen to them. So long as I'm alive, I won't let any harm befall these children. They must be protected. End of flashback. Greyaya Kurama roars out as his form appears around Naruto and Hinata. With their chakra now restored, they're able to reach Akatsuki and the kids in time before the gas can do anything to them. It all happens in the blink of an eye. They all now find themselves inside Kurama's chakra form. Her chakra restored, Hinata once again activates her Tensogen and cloaks Kurama as purple flames. Whoa! Katori looks around her surroundings and the orange chakra that now covers them all. In a way, it feels like they should be suffocating, but they don't seem to have any problems being in here. Naruto, I'm sorry. It's fine. Naruto cuts him off. You said we could talk about it later, right? Let's finish the job we have in front of us. Yeah. Let's. Son Goku lands right next to him. Took you long enough. Where have you been, anyway? It's not like you have anywhere else to be. Shut it, son. Kikuo lands at Kurama's other side. Don't talk and act. Without being prompted, he begins gathering chakra at his mouth. Dark, heavy chakra. Sun and Kurama join him, adding their own chakra to his and making it as gigantic as possible. The Sesoseki has difficulty moving in its current solidified state. Tailed beast bomb. They fire together and hit it directly in the chest. The explosion covers a white area and leaves its mark on the surrounding mountains, but something of that power should have been enough to get it. But it wasn't. Not entirely. The damn thing's still standing. Sun growls. What else are we supposed to throw at it? Kurama looks somber at the rock creature, still clinging on and trying to heal itself by absorbing the ground. You were always stubborn in your own special way. Weren't you, Tamamo? Sun and Kikuo raise a brow at Kurama's words, but they don't have enough time to question him before the fox dashes to the Sessoseki. Continuous tailed beast bomb. He rapid fires a series of less powerful bombs, but the barrage is enough to keep it occupied. Kurama jumps up and fires a flaming purple spear directly at it. It strikes true and the chakra washes over it. Kurama jumps onto its chest, knocking it down, and begins charging a point-blank beast bomb. When the Sessoseki tries to push Kurama away, Sun and Kikuo intervene by keeping its arms down. Kurama digs his claws deep, and before he finishes charging, the scene around Naruto changes. Naruto mindscape. He's in a white space, much like what he saw when he spoke to his mom and dad. Where before, he was in Kurama form, pinning down a rock creature, he's now in his own Chunin uniform, pinning down a beautiful woman. She's dressed in an intricate white and silver robe, long black silky hair spread across the floor. Her red lips, contrasting her pale skin, form into a smile as her dark eyes meet his. Naruto's unsure where to start. He's holding her down by the shoulders and knows he should get off, but at the same time, he can't. I'm glad. Her genuine smile makes him blush. Kurama finally found his family. What? Who are you? Back to reality. Tailed beast bomb. Before he can receive an answer, Kurama fires the dense chakra directly into the Sessoseki's chest, causing it to finally break apart. It does not regenerate any further. Sun sits down. That thing sure was something. Ryuki and Matatabi were right, we'll have to step up our game. Thanks for your help, you guys. You too, Ma, Pa. I couldn't have done it without any of you. Shima sighs. You just can't keep out of trouble, can you? Naruto gives an embarrassed laugh. Sorry, he begins releasing his Kurama form, gently letting everyone down. Fukasaku pats his student on the head. If you're ever in a bind, call us, alright? Of course. Naruto smiles and nods as the two of them de-summon themselves and return to Mount Myaboku. The kids stare at their surroundings and Yakimaru raises a hand, as if in class. Sensei, I have a lot of questions. Hinata smiles and Naruto ruffles the boy's hair. I know you do. We'll talk about everything when we get back, alright? We'll sit down and have a nice talk. In his mindscape, Naruto pats Kurama on the paw. And we'll talk when you're ready. Akatsuchi sighs and falls on his butt. I second the getting back part. I never would have thought any of this would happen on this mission. This is easily above an S rank. Naruto takes one long look at the stony remains, his mind thinking back on the woman in white he saw briefly. Somehow she knew Kurama's name. Was she the person who this creature used to be? Did she regain some form of sentience just before dying? His emotions and thought running around unchecked, Naruto calms his mind by squatting down and bringing all the kids into a hug, pulling Hinata in too. Eventually, they all pack their things and go to return to the hidden stone to report what happened to the Tsuchikage. Son Goku and Kikuo also go their separate ways. Kurama POV. Kurama remains silent and hopes that Naruto doesn't come speak to him right now. He grits his jagged teeth and slams a fist on the ground. This was the only way, right? There was nothing else we could have done, right? You truly were lost, weren't you, Tamamo? His mind wanders elsewhere. To the distant past. Once upon a time. A man is walking barefoot through a secluded forest. His dirtied feet step through fallen twigs and over jagged rocks, but he doesn't seem to be bothered by it. The bottom of his gray robes are also somewhat dirty and torn, visibly not being kept in the best of shape. In contrast, his wild orange mane of hair is clean and shiny and tied up in a ponytail. If it wasn't, it may just reach his feet. He takes the time to stop and appreciate the sounds of the woodland beings around, the chirping of birds, the squeaking of squirrels, and the noticeable wails of a deer making her way directly toward him, where she stops right in front of him and bumps her head on his chest. He pats her on the neck with his clawed hand, nails long and sharpened to an unnatural degree, but the deer doesn't seem intimidated by it at all. She steps back and motions him to follow, which he does. After a few minutes of walking, he hears humming. A very melodic, angelic humming that somehow puts his mind at ease. He wasn't even aware that his mind needed to be put at ease. It feels nostalgic even though he's never heard it before, and homely even though he doesn't really have a home. When the deer leads him to the source of this voice, he finds himself standing in front of a small creek flowing through the woods and the woman humming the song. He can only see her back, and even then, most of it is taken up by long flowing silky black hair. She's sitting on the muddy ground in her pure white robes, undoubtedly getting them much dirtier than she's probably even gotten them before. But the oddest thing is the young fawn lying on the ground next to her and an elk standing guard over them. The fawn has an injured leg that she's currently treating, washing away the blood with water from the creek and wrapping it in long thick blades of grass. The man approaches curiously once she's done singing. "What are you doing?" She doesn't turn around, choosing to focus on the fawn. "I'm tending to this young one, of course." Her voice is calm and serene. He looks over the bite marks. "Why? The wolves were unable to get it this time, but they will eventually. Then it's lucky I was here to heal it. You've no reason to." His voice isn't mocking or condescending in any way, but he can't seem to comprehend why someone would do it. "I saw an injured child, and I have the ability to heal it. That's all the reason I need. And in that way, you're depriving the wolf cubs of a meal. One child is starving because you saved a different one. You're not its mother, just leave it. Then I will become this forest's mother. Be it a fawn or a cub, I'll tend to their every need. Then there won't be any issues with me healing them." The man scoffs. "That's a ridiculous sentiment." "Perhaps." The tone of her voice shifts, becoming more somber. Even though he's yet to see her face, he can hear her smile drop. "But it's my own ridiculous sentiment. And no one can take that from me." The man looks her over before drawing closer, along with the deer. "What's your name, weird one?" It's then that she turns around and they meet for the first time. She's the pinnacle of beauty, with her smooth, snow-white skin and dark eyes. Her soft features are highlighted by her kind smile, which has now returned to her. She's graceful and attentive. He, on the other hand, is the very definition of monstrous. His gray robes are loose, and he's resting a clawed hand on his open robe rather than in the sleeve. His orange-maned hair framed a face that would normally drive people away. Sharp fangs clearly visible every time his mouth is even slightly agape, whisker markings on each cheek, and vertically slit blood-red eyes. "Tamamo? And yours?" He stares at her with his piercing red eyes for a few moments before responding. "Karama." End of chapter 25. Chapter 26. Hidden Stone Secrets. Part 4. In a very familiar sight, Inoki is slumped over his desk, staring at a scroll. He's holding his head with both hands in disbelief. "So you're telling me you were transported to the past, met Mito Uzumaki who told you about the great beasts, fought against Lord Mu?" Naruto corrects him. "We didn't actually fight him ourselves, we more just avoided him." Inoki continues as if Naruto hadn't just spoken. And then, it turns out the Temple of Stone's song, which has been a place of great importance and reverence to the land, is actually one of these great beasts. Was. This time Hinata corrects him. "It was destroyed, and any remnants of its chakra were gone, although we've no experience and no history with them, so we can't be certain it's dead for good." Inoki nods. "Tailed beasts reform after several years, if they're ever killed. The same could be said of these creatures." Naruto chimes in. "But Mito said the great beasts are people who mutated cause of tailed beast chakra. So maybe cause it's not their own chakra, they can't reform, and when they die for good. An astute observation, my boy, and definitely a possibility. But the fact still remains we can't be certain. Either option is possible, so we can simply prepare for the worst and hope of the best. We'll keep watch over that beast's remains." They both nod. "There's also something else that happened. Before it died, I saw a woman. In a place that looked real similar to where Jinchuriki and tailed beasts talk. I think it was the person that thing used to be before she took in too much tailed beast chakra. So it might be possible to delve deeper into our minds and talk to each other if they really were created that way." Inoki scratches his chin. "I see. And did she say something? Anything that might help us?" Naruto pauses for a moment. Throughout the entire battle, Kurama was acting weird, but that one meeting pretty much confirmed what it was about. That woman from an age gone knew Kurama by name, and one big issue the fox had had with people is that they never cared whether they had names. Whoever that woman was, Kurama knew her well. The reason he knew how to activate the seals, and the reason he wasn't his usual self during the fight, but that's a story for another time. "No." She just said thank you and disappeared before she could say anything. "That's certainly unfortunate that we couldn't gain any more insight." Inoki leans back in his chair and grumbles, going over all the details in his head. Hinata looks at him expectantly if there's anything else he'd want to ask, but when he doesn't, she speaks up instead. Then we shall take out leave if there's nothing else to discuss. Ah, well, there is one thing. Inoki makes a gesture to a hidden stone ninja by his side, who takes out two small cases from a scroll and places them on the desk in front of Naruto and Hinata. Your payment for the mission. Naruto and Hinata both share a confused look at the need for cases. When Naruto opens one, his eyes bulge and he shuts it closed. You sure this is right? Inoki nods. You uncovered the age-old secret of the Temple of Stone's song, and while it's a shame it was destroyed, you prevented a powerful being from rampaging these lands. That's easily an S-rank mission. You've earned it. He offers them a smile. Thank you kindly, Lord Tsuchikage. Hinata bows again, and Naruto follows suit. For now, rest. We'll send someone to contact you for your next missions in a couple days' time. Having returned home, the kids drop their bags and lie down on the ground, groaning. Naruto throws his bag on the couch and hangs himself over the backrest. Kids, pick up your bags. But you threw yours too, Naruto Shisho. Shoto turns over on his back, staring at the ceiling. Do as I say, not as I do. Naruto's voice comes out muffled, having dropped face first on the sofa. That's not fair. Katori protests, trying to get a look at her dad without actually moving. It's more difficult than she thought. Hinata chuckles and picks up the bags off the floor. Come now, there's more comfortable places to rest. Yakimaru picks himself up and dusts his clothes off. Is this what ninja missions usually are? What we went through is more unusual. Hinata helps Katori and Shoto up as well, straightening their clothes. You wouldn't fight anything on that level for a while, but that doesn't mean they won't be dangerous. Katori, you saw how we'd sometimes return from missions tired and beat up, right? There's a lot of sides to being a ninja. What you saw is merely an oddity. Naruto hops to his feet. It's not like you leave and be fighting at first. Genin missions are more like chores and odd jobs around the village. Katori scowls. That sounds boring. It is. Naruto ruffles her hair as he passes to grab their stuff off Hinata. But it's work that needs doing. He kisses Hinata on the forehead, now holding all of their backpacks. You and Katori go take a bath, me and the boys will get dinner ready. It'll take a while to get the bath ready, I can help with the cooking. Bath's ready. A voice calls out from the corridor. Everyone turns around to see a Naruto walk out, wave, and disappear in a puff of smoke. Naruto smiles. Bath's ready. Hinata looks between where the clone was and Naruto. Is that why you sent a shadow clone earlier? Yep. Figured it'd do you good after everything, so I decided to prepare it in advance. Hinata blushes and pecks him on the lips. Thanks. Katori giggles while Yakimaru and Shoto fake gag. She lightly smacks on the shoulder. All right, Katori, let's go. The two girls head off while the boys go to the kitchen to get dinner ready. Naruto is, admittedly, not the best cook. He spent most of his life on cup ramen and did fairly well for himself, although that's needed to change as of late. The time spent over at the Hidden Cloud allowed him to pick up on some of the skills he'd missed out on. He learned a bit from Hinata, Samui, Atsui, and even Katori. Yakimaru seems proficient himself, which in hindsight makes sense. He'd had to care for his mom, given her condition, so he had to pick up a few skills. Shoto hasn't really needed to cook anything, so it's a bit of a learning process for him. Throughout the preparations, Yakimaru is a touch quiet while Naruto instructs Shoto on what to do and how to do it. He still does his tasks, but his mind wanders occasionally to what the man in blue armor said about them being untrained. Sensei. He's intently focused on chopping vegetables. I'll practice twice as much. 3 times as much. You won't regret taking me as your student. Naruto smiles and pulls the boy into a hug. Listen, I'm a big fan of pushing myself to get stronger and stronger, alright? But what are you training for? Yakimaru looks to him with furrowed brows. Huh. You know, your goal. I plan on becoming Hokage, leader of the Hidden Leaf Village. Shoto, what's yours? The boy answers without interrupting his assigned task of preparing the rice. To make the Teshin clan known among shinobi again. See? He's got a clear goal, to keep him on the road to get stronger. What about you? Yakimaru takes a moment to gather his thoughts while adding the chopped veggies to the dish. Everything I've done was for mom. I guess I want to help her and make sure she lives a good life. There you go. Then always keep that goal in mind, alright? Never forget that you're doing it for her. Wanting to get stronger just for the sake of getting stronger isn't gonna lead you anywhere good. Always keep your friends and family close to your heart. Don't let anyone else's words pull you away from that path. Yakimaru nods and gives a bright smile. Yes, sensei. Shoto hands over the bowl of rice to Naruto. That guy sounded like a jerk, anyway. He tried to attack us. Naruto chuckles. Well, he's also a Hokage, you know. The Hidden Leaf's second Hokage, and was a pretty good one. The three of them continue to cook until Hinata and Katori make their way back, clean and refreshed. Your turn. Katori taps out Shoto and Yakimaru, and now the boys go to take a bath. After they bathe and return back to the apartment, Hinata and Katori have finished the dinner they started, and everything is ready. They all set the table together and sit down to eat, happily chatting away. After the fact, they relax in the living room. Katori managed to beat the boys to the armchair and is flaunting her victory by making herself right at home. Naruto looks around the kids playfully taunting each other and Hinata by his side. Their eyes meet and without sharing a word, they both agree the kids should know. It might be a bit early for them, but they've shown to be well beyond their years and they deserve to know, so why not now? Katori's mocking of the boys is interrupted when Naruto stands up and sits on the ground between the sofa and the armchair. Alright, everyone sit around in a circle. Oh. His daughter whines. But I just won the armchair. And you can win it again, come on. He pats the ground next to him. He takes Hinata and Katori's hands as they sit by his sides, and they in turn take Shoto and Yakimaru's hands, forming a complete circle. Naruto closes his eyes. Explaining would take a lot of time, so I feel it's better to just show you. Just remember, you're safe, alright? Nothing and no one's gonna hurt you. The kids share an uncertain and somewhat nervous look but ultimately nod. They trust their dad, teacher, mentor person. Naruto allows his chakra to flow through everyone, connected by their hands. For Hinata, it's a familiar feeling, but for the kids, it's an entirely new sensation. Their breath escapes from a gasp as weightlessness comes over them, where Katori can't help but be reminded of when she fell down the cliff to save Takai and Kitsui, except this time she can feel Naruto and Yakimaru holding onto her safely. The weightlessness lasts only a moment, but it lingers for a bit more, even after they can feel themselves firmly sitting in water. It's weird. It feels like water, but at the same time, they're not getting wet. All three of them open their eyes more or less simultaneously and are met with, for lack of a better term, a monstrous sight. A giant fox towers over them, 9 orange tails swirling behind it. Its low grumble resonates through the unfamiliar dark yet somehow lit chamber, the growl echoing. The kids gasp in surprise and jump to their feet, backtracking. They freeze in place, hands slightly trembling. Guys, I told you you're safe, right? Naruto stands up along with Hinata, still holding hands. This is Kurama. He's my friend. The fox sneers. This may have been worth it just for those reactions. I haven't gotten to see them in so long. Sensei, Shoto finishes the sentence. What's that? Isn't that the thing you turn into? Katori's the first to really shake off the shock. Yep. Naruto nods. Like I said, this is Kurama. I guess you could say he's my roommate, since he lives inside me. He's met with very puzzled looks. Hinata squeezes his hand. I think we should start from the beginning. Naruto scratches his head. Alright. This'll take a while. Kids, sit down. Kurama, look less menacing. Can't. Comes a brief reply. We'll figure something out. He approaches the kids, who have now significantly calmed down, and sits down with them. See, Kurama's a tailed beast, one of 9. You guys already saw 2 of them, the 4-tailed Son Goku and 5-tailed Kikuo, and before that, Katori, you saw another 2 over in the hidden cloud, the 2-tailed Matatabi and the 8-tailed Gyuki. Yakimaru stares up to Kurama. Tailed beast. Everyone keeps talking about them, and great beasts. Naruto nods. Yeah. That big rock creature was one of the great beasts, and we can't really beat them without Kurama and the rest. See, he's sealed in me, and we share our power and fight together. He looks up to the fox and smiles. We're a team. Kurama scoffs and looks away, acting disinterested. Is that why everyone treats you like a celebrity? Katori asks. Cause you have this power? Yeah, more or less. I don't know if I'd have gotten to where I am without him. Shoto solemnly looks down. So we can't help? Whatcha mean? Naruto cocks his head. Since we don't have a tailed beast on our side, we can't help fight against these other beasts, right? Hinata leans down and caresses the boy on the head. That's not true at all. Everyone can help in their own ways. I don't have a tailed beast either, but I was able to help Naruto against a stone creature. That's right. And I'm gonna need a whole lot more help. Hinata, Shima, Fukasaku. We won cause everyone was on my side. And I'll be relying on you guys too, when you get bigger, alright? Naruto flashes them a bright grin. TCH. My power is not so weak that I need help from any random brat. We were having a moment here, Kurama. Naruto reprimands his roommate. When he turns around, he's met by much more relaxed, smiling faces. We won't let you down. The three of them say in unison, pulling it off better than they would have if they'd practiced. He smiles as Hinata clings to his arm and brings everyone back to the living room of their temporary home. The three kids stand up, each of them with a reinvigorated motivation. We won't let you down, Dad. I know you won't. With that, they head off to their room. Once they're out of earshot, Naruto leans on his girlfriend. You didn't tell them the most important part. She snuggles with him. Which one? About how you were treated because you were a Jinchuriki. That's a story for another day. That won't affect them in any way and won't help them. Besides, it's in the past. I'm not gonna keep worrying about that. Whatever you decide. She kisses him on the temple. Naruto and Hinata, as in the hidden cloud, are set to do missions for the next 2.5 months. They make a deal just like before to not have both of them away from the village for too long, if at all possible. This does mean that one of them has to take the occasional genin mission, but that has also been turned into part of the exchange program. As Chunin, they take command of genin teams and work together with the less experienced ninja, sharing their own practices and tips. The kids, on the other hand, don't have the academy to keep them occupied as the school year has ended for summer break. They have to look out for other ways to keep themselves occupied, but they do manage to make friends with the local kids while playing outside. Some of them are academy students, younger or older than them, so they still have someone to talk shop with. The shinobi kids show off their talents and even make some of it into a game, hide and seek, where they use the transformation to turn into people and the others have to guess which one they are. That does mean that the civilian kids can never be the hiders, so they don't play using ninjutsu that often, preferring to stick to games everyone can take part in. Transformation training. Hinata has taken Katori, Yakimeru, and Shoto up to the rooftop of their apartment building, overlooking their neighborhood. She points to the three adjacent streets, forming a U-shape. Those are the streets you're allowed to hide in. You can enter buildings open to the public, but only with express permission from the store owners, alright? We don't want to inconvenience anyone with our practice. You've 5 minutes to prepare and find a suitable location and disguise. Any questions? Shoto speaks up. How is it even possible to hide from you? I won't be using any sensory abilities or my Byakugan. I'll just use my own eyes to discern how well you blend in. She looks between them to see if there are any more questions, and when no one speaks up, she smiles. Begin. They all flicker down, using the surrounding buildings as ledges, still being relatively inexperienced with the body flicker. They can't yet directly go to ground level like Hinata or Naruto. She turns around to give them their freedom to move around and find a hiding spot. When the 5 minutes are up, she flickers down and begins walking down the streets, keeping a very careful eye out for anyone and anything out of place. She walks calm and steady, although not to the point of being suspicious and alarming the passers-by. She walks past the 3 streets in order once, and on the return walk finds all 3 of them. The first stop is a food stall. Inside are the stall tenders, obviously, 2 young women eating snacks at a table, an elderly shinobi in uniform at a different table, and a younger shinobi in the same uniform on the stools. She sits down by the younger man and pats him on the shoulder. Oh. The man whines and in a puff of smoke is replaced by Shoto. How'd you know? Everyone inside chuckles, being privy to why he was hiding. She points to the older man. You thought to blend in with the gentleman, but you made the mistake of using his uniform. It used to be standard issue shinobi gear decades ago, and nobody wears it anymore, besides the retired old guard. Shoto counters. But what if it belonged to my grandpa or uncle, and I'm wearing it as a memento? That's unlikely for a shinobi to do, as shinobi gear isn't something simple like a hat that is passed through the generations. One can certainly keep an older flak jacket as a memento, but flak jackets of today are made of sturdier material, so older models are prohibited from being worn on duty and off duty. No one would wear them as a sign of respect. He lowers his head. I see. So flak jackets are more than just armor. The old man sips his drink and says in a gruff voice. No, they are not. Just as one would not dare wear the Tsuchikage's official garments. There are replicas that the younguns wear when they play pretend, but their colors are different and it's very obviously a fake. We shinobi have our traditions and customs and we follow them to the best of our hearts. He pats his armor. This is a symbol of my service to the village, not someone else's. Shoto stands up and bows. I apologize for the disrespect. Hinata bows as well. There's no need. You didn't know something, and now you do. He gives a warm smile, his eyes twinkling. You'll get it next time, kiddo. Hinata places a hand around Shoto's shoulders and leads him out. Now, I believe Yakimaru is closer. He looks up to her. You already found them? She only smiles in response. The second stop is a plant shop. Unlike Ino's flower shop, this place offers a wider variety of flora for the home, and it's all potted plants. From simple decorative flowers on display on the front to small trees in the back. Pardon the intrusion. She excuses herself to the older woman manning the store and immediately goes to an ivy plant next to a tree. She takes one of the vines, and when she does, it becomes surrounded in a puff of smoke, and she's now standing there holding Yakimaru's hand. I was a good plant. Probably the weirdest complaint he's ever given. You were, but you didn't belong here. That ivy is an invasive species that quickly latches onto nearby plants. They're not sold in stores like this for precisely that reason, and if they were, they'd never be placed next to other plants. Shoto looks around the room. Would you even pick that one, and not any of the plants actually in here? Yakimaru grumbles and looks down. I dunno, it's just a plant that grew a lot back home. It's pretty. The woman at the counter smiles. You certainly know a lot about them. Hinata turns to her and smiles. Yes, I enjoy flower pressing and have studied a good deal about flora, both native to the land of fire and not. So I lost before we even started. Yakimaru rubs the back of his neck. The older woman pats him on the head. Next time. The three of them excuse themselves and head out to find their final target. The third stop is a young man feeding sparrows on the side of the road, throwing crumbs on the ground. Hinata approaches, which spooks some of them away, but she takes one specific sparrow in her hands and pets on the head. In a puff of smoke, it's replaced with Katori, who Hinata continues to pet on the head. The man throws another handful of breadcrumbs to attract back the ones that were spooked. Well, that didn't take long. He chuckles. How'd you know? The feathers. You've studied a lot about condors and sparrows as part of your training, and you've done exceptionally well. Katori's grin drops slightly when Hinata continues. But you studied ones native to the land of lightning. She points to the birds nomming on bread. The sparrows native to the land of earth are bigger and have different coloration. That's another aspect of your training we need to focus on. Katori nods. Okay. They excuse themselves to the man feeding the birds and go back home. This game continues on for the coming months, eventually adding the rule to not use disguises that have already been used to up the difficulty. Throughout the whole process, the kids actually become friends with the locals, with them even joining in on the game to aid the kids in hiding better and picking better transformations. Naruto is, admittedly, not as observant as Hinata, and it takes him slightly longer to find them, but Hinata has keen eyes even outside of her Byakugan, so that's to be expected. They do switch it around a bit. Some days, two of the kids hide, while the other seeks. Other days Naruto or Hinata hide, and the three of them have to find their teacher. With each passing week, they kept getting better at blending into their surroundings and not alerting others to their presence, and it took Naruto and Hinata longer and longer to find them. Character description. As it turns out, Toshikazu Miyashi, the old man from the food stall, is a veteran who's been on missions with the Teshin clan before they left the Hidden Stone in disgrace, so he had many stories to tell Shoto. The boy is able to gain some insight on how his clan fought back when they were shinobi, although it's been a while since Toshikazu has seen them, so his recollection isn't entirely complete. Tokugushikan, the woman from the flora shop, has a very good friend who sells crystals and gems. Yakimaru has seen Katori extensively study birds, seeing as her abilities apparently correlate to her knowledge of what she's summoning. Maybe his abilities are the same? Hinata or Naruto, depending on who's leading the exercise for the day, take him to the store and, with permission, he inspects the various minerals and is given a few crash courses in composition, environment, cause of forming. The woman also takes a closer look at the crystal that Yakimaru himself creates to give him pointers, and as he expected, his use of the crystal style eventually became much more smooth and easy. As to not be rude, they also buy several gemstones and crystals from her as a show of gratitude, although they're not entirely certain what to do with them. Gifts when they get back home, perhaps? Shinzo Nanami, the man who fed the sparrows, is a veterinarian who also co-owns a pet store with his wife and younger brother, so he's been a good source of knowledge for Katori, getting more details on how avians vary depending on where they're from. She's also given some good materials on an animal that's seen a lot in the land of Earth, the ostrich. By the end, she becomes able to summon a very young ostrich after thorough study. Substitution training. This game is a more simple one with not a whole lot of rules. Naruto and Hinata pick a log, and the kids form a circle around it. First one has to substitute themselves with the log, then the second one has to substitute with the same log before it falls to the ground. If someone is unable to switch places with it in time before it hits the ground, they add 5 to any part of their endurance training, push-ups, sit-ups, squats, anything. They do get the hang of it fairly early. It does take them a bit more time initially to form the hand signs and weave their chakra, and the log is dropped a few times by all of them, but by the end, they manage to do it swiftly and precisely. That is, until Naruto and Hinata start throwing projectiles at them. Small rubber balls that prove just enough to break their concentration and make them miss the timing, but acting under pressure while being attacked by the enemy is something they definitely must get used to in order to be shinobi. Clone training. This game is a fairly simple one as well and serves a double purpose. One of them hides behind a large rock and they and a clone come running out. They have to ensure that their clone is a good enough replica of themselves and not give away who the real one is. The other aspect of the training is the ones who are trying to spot the fake from the real one. Observational skills are crucial to a ninja, so they need to develop them in a similar vein to what they utilize in the transformation training. Body flicker training. The kids are sitting on the ground outside in the empty training area they found before. Naruto taps the tip of his boot on the ground, lightly hopping in one place. Alright, pop quiz. What's the body flicker? Katori raises her hand excitedly. He chuckles. We're not in class, Katori, you don't need to raise your hand. Katori rubs the back of her head. Sorry. She clears her throat and recites what she learned from the Hidden Clouds Academy. The body flicker's a technique that allows the user to move at a nearly untraceable speed for a short period of time by infusing their chakra. The better one's chakra control is, the farther they can go. Exactly right, you sound like Aruka-sensei. He smiles at the textbook explanation she gave. So you're gonna try and get better and better at using it. You've got until our mission here ends to get as far as possible using the body flicker. Shoto looks around the empty field. As to not get in the way of anyone else who may want to use it, they've taken to using the very end of it since they don't really need a whole lot of space for this exercise. Naruto draws a straight line parallel to the field and flickers a fair distance away from it, drawing a new line. Alright, I think this is fair. He gauges the distance. You have 2.5 months to reach here. Wah, but, Dad, that's really far. Katori stands at the line and looks at the marked area like she's looking at a bottomless void. There's no way we can get that far. Shoto flickers away and tries to get the distance, but he doesn't even get halfway. She misjudges how far he can actually go versus how far he wants to go and ends up landing on his butt. He grumbles. It really is. Shouldn't we start a bit easier, sensei? Yakimaru looks just as uncertain. Naruto sighs and places a hand on his waist. Hoi, come on. Didn't you guys say you were gonna train way harder? Is just this enough to give up on being a shinobi? They look down embarrassed. We'll do it. Katori declares and follows Shoto, flicker as far as she can, which is only a few centimeters ahead of him. Yakimaru breaths in and flickers, as well, right next to Shoto. Naruto approaches with a smile. That line I drew is your end goal to reach by the time our mission here ends. If you can reach it earlier, that's good, but you're not supposed to get there tomorrow or even a week from now. In the meantime, you'll have other goals to beat. What goals are we supposed to beat? Naruto grins at Shoto's setup for the reveal. Each other. He takes out a brown piece of chalk and marks where Shoto landed, a white piece of chalk to mark where Katori landed, and a blue piece of chalk to mark where Yakimaru landed. He throws each marker to the respective child. Use those to mark how far you get, see who can flicker the farthest. The three of them share a look and smirk. The game is on. From then on, they compete to beat their own records, each other's records, and eventually the goal Naruto set. They marked their progress and even started marking the date they reached them. They also customized their starting points, giving themselves a square to start from and keeping to their own imaginary lanes. Shoto writes iron in his box, Kotori bird, and Yakimeru strength. For 2 months, with 2 weeks to spare, they make significant progress in their chakra control, and eventually they all manage to cross over the finish line. Kotori was first by about a week, followed shortly by Yakimeru, with Shoto being last. By the end of their stay here, they've gotten really good at the ear ank techniques. Hinata may even argue they're better than academy kids their age, although she might be a bit biased. Now, it's time for them to leave. Inoki, Kuretsuchi, and Akatsuchi are at the main gates to see them off. Inoki is, as usual, floating, which the kids can't help but stare at. Naruto taps them on the head as a signal to stop it. You needn't have come out all this way, Lord Tsuchikage. Nonsense. I wanted to see you off, so I'm seeing you off. And also to thank you for your service, you've been a great help. He shakes hands with both of them and floats down to shake hands with the kids. And you be sure to grow to be great shinobi. They give firm nods. We will. Kuretsuchi places a hand on her hip. So where are you going next? You have the hidden sand and the hidden mist left, right? Yes. The hidden sand is much closer and would be the better choice time-wise, but… She looks to Naruto, who returns the look and continues. But the hidden mist might have something on the hidden whirlpool about the great beasts. Akatsuchi chimes in with his bellowing voice. Although the hidden mist hasn't given us any updates, and they've been looking into it for a while now. Yeah, but it might be something like the Temple of Stone's song, where only we can find it. But I think we should head to the hidden sand. Hinata nods in agreement. Then the hidden sand, it is. With that, they give their final goodbyes and leave the hidden stone village. Somewhere in the land of wind, a large group of heavily armed bandits, easily 2 dozen, are moving through the sandy dunes of the land of wind, all wearing cloaks to keep them safe from environmental hazards. They climb to a higher vantage point and smirk once they see their target. The land of wind is not what many would call green. Their major flora is located at the borders with other nations, very few plants actually growing in the center of it. So these border green areas are vital for both the land and the hidden sand village. For one, the village's signature puppetry requires plenty of wood, and they either get it from places like this or buy it from other lands. The forest in front of them is crucial. If they can take control of it and the nearby villages, they can practically keep the land hostage. As they begin to step forward to make their way to it, they're stopped by a gurgling sound. They turn around to see 3 of their men, located in the back, fall into the ground, their chests pierced. A 4th stands up, clutching his chest, where a pink crystalline sword has pierced him. The woman pulls out her blade, letting the body fall. She stands before all of them, now in plain sight. She's a young woman, in a green one-sleeved kimono with a white camellia on the side. Her light blue hair is tied in a large spiky ponytail, leaving 2 strands to frame her face. You just couldn't keep quiet, could you? She shakes her head. No, that was my faulty aim. They all draw their arms. You bitch, who do you think you are? Before they can even move to charge at her, their feet are stuck. Where they previously stood on solid ground, if a bit sandy, has now turned to mud. They're all stuck. Earth style, swamp to the underworld. What? Where'd this come from? They all try to struggle free, to no avail. A man appears from behind the trees. Don't insult her. His deep rumbling voice matches his appearance, being a bulky man with fists like tree trunks themselves. He looks to the woman with the crystalline blade attached to her arm. You shouldn't leave too much evidence behind. She sighs. I know. The bandits, currently knee-deep in mud, throw kunai and shuriken their way. The woman blocks with her crystal blade, while the man's body simply turns to mud and absorbs the projectiles. Some begin to weave chakra, but before they can finish, the woman has already finished her own jutsu. They all become covered in pink crystals, very quickly growing from small specks on their clothes to encompassing their entire bodies. Crystal style, crystal pentagonal prison. The bodies encased in crystals are slowly swallowed by the mud, which soon after disappears and leaves behind only wet soil. The man approaches, visible worry on his face. Are you all right? The woman begins picking up the weapons that were left behind. Of course. You? He pats himself down, as if he himself is not sure. Yeah. He helps her pick up what they can. We should hurry back home. We've been away for a while now. They might get suspicious. She stands up, kunai and shuriken safely packed away in her pouch. Then we can just say we were out on a romantic stroll. She leans down to kiss him on the forehead, making the burly man blush. But you're right, we are late. Having scavenged the remains, they make their way toward the forest. End of chapter 26.